Wednesday, October 9th, 2024. In-person meeting, 7 p.m., Watertown Town Hall, Town Council Chambers, 63 Echo Lake Road, Watertown, Connecticut. Roll call. Robert?
Robert McCarthy.
Ron Russ. David Genetti.
Richard Rossi.
Richard Antonetti. We do have a quorum, and we'll move forward.
I'm going to appoint someone that is not.
I am going to replace for Jamie Hobart,
Ronald Russ.
what's his name?
Ronald Russ.
Ronald Russ. You will be a regular member for tonight's meeting. Okay, let us move forward here. Public participation. Is there anyone in the public who would like to speak? There's a microphone here on that table. Please come forward, state your name, address, and we'll listen.
Evening, my name is Philip Beaudry. I live at 61 Lancaster Street in Oakville. I'm here because we were trying to see if we could get a slow children at play or careful of children sign put on our street, because cars have been coming up the street very fast. And I have two little ones, a 5-year-old and a 4-year-old. They can't really play in the front yard with the cars that come up. It is a dead-end street, but it originally wasn't. So I think some people still don't realize, especially delivery drivers, they drive up the street really fast, thinking that they could get across, and it just ends. And of course, that's where my house is. Another thing is with Swift School there, some people try and go up the street to cut around the traffic instead of having to wait, and they find it's a dead end, and then they turn around. And so we just wanted to see if we can make it safer at all for my kids.
On signs, Chief, do we have those signs? I think there was an issue at one time where we could not put those up or something.
Yeah, the federal government, when they released the latest edition of the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, discouraged the use of signs similar to what you're speaking of, as they don't use the word clutter, but as signs that aren't necessarily regulatory or advisory and generally disregarded by the traveling public, where they say if you put up too many of these signs, nobody looks at them anyway, was kind of the notion of what the MUTCD was saying. So I don't believe Public Works has an inventory of them anymore. However, I would definitely like to come out to your street and take a look at it and see if there's some other options.
Okay.
Is there any sign saying dead end road?
There's a sign that says no outlet, I believe, but the house at the beginning of the street, there's cars that park on both sides, which one is dangerous because you can only pass one car through. And there's been a couple times where there's almost been an accident, but I think the cars that are parked on the street block that sign a little bit, and people don't really notice it, so.
Which street are you on again?
Lancaster,
Lancaster?
Yeah.
Where is it off of?
it's off of Colonial.
Colonial?
Yeah, right near Swift,
All right,
the main
yeah,
entrance to Swift.
Okay.
It's like,
I have a good
parallel
idea
to
where it is,
Claremont.
Yeah, I went to Swift, but I don't remember, you know.
yeah, it's parallel to Claremont and runs parallel to
All
it.
right,
So
yeah,
I think people try and cut across.
Cross, yeah.
Because even on my GPS, it still shows the road as a throughway,
Throughway,
but
yeah.
it's no longer a throughway.
Mr. Chairman, through you.
Go ahead.
What time of the day does this normally take place? Is it during drop-off, Swift drop-off, and
Drop-offs,
pickup?
pickups, is when the cars come up and they turn around. Deliveries, a lot of the delivery drivers, it's kind of just throughout the day, but at nighttime too. The other thing, there's no street lights on the street, like at our end, so it's pitch black and it's a hill. So it's kind of, you have no visibility coming over the hill, and there's been plenty of times people have had to slam on their brakes because they're about to go into someone's yard, because it just ends, so.
So is there a sign at the end of the street?
No, there's nothing at the end of the street. The house at the end of the street uses the continuation of the road as their driveway.
Right.
And then people pull up and then they realize they're in someone's driveway and then they have to back out.
And then what about, is there any no parking signs at the beginning of the street where you talked about
No.
those cars kind of blocking that sign? the
No, there's no
outlet sign?
parking signs there.
Okay.
I don't know if there's a rule against parking on both sides, but it's a multifamily home at the beginning of the street, so there's probably 4 or 5 cars right there at the entrance.
Okay. And are they parking facing the right way?
Yeah, they're facing the right direction. It's just,
narrow.
it's a tight street to begin with. So it's kind of, when there's cars on both sides, it's really narrow.
Okay. Chief, I wonder if we can speak to the superintendent of schools and maybe have a note go out to parents, SWIFT parents, noting that Lancaster's a no outlet, and parents should avoid that street. Sounds like there's a few issues
Yeah,
that could be addressed.
there's definitely a bunch of issues with that street.
Yes, sir, if you could approach when you're done and give us your contact information.
Okay.
We'll get in touch with you tomorrow and set up a plan.
All right, yeah, I have a letter from my wife that she printed up, so I can hand it to you. It has her contact information.
Okay, you can feel free to read it into the record as well as if
Oh,
you'd like.
I'll just read it from my wife. I am writing to support the request of putting a Watch for Children or Children at Play sign at the beginning of Lancaster Street in Oakville, Connecticut. I reside at 61 Lancaster Street, which is the second to last house on the dead-end road. Vehicles drive at high speeds coming up the hill of Lancaster Street. I have a 4- and 5-year-old who cannot utilize our large front yard to play as cars are constantly speeding up the dead end. I will gladly provide video evidence of such dangers. There are many houses with children who reside on Lancaster Street. I always say it's the busiest dead-end street in Connecticut. From my understanding, Lancaster was not always a dead end, and some GPS do not reflect the dead end. Many delivery drivers come up the road at high speeds, not realizing the road ends. My neighbors and I hope that a sign at the beginning of the street will alert drivers to reduce their speeds, creating a safer place for our children to live and play. Thank you for your consideration and the service you provide to our town.
Thank you. Any other questions from members of the commission? Chief, you'll be looking at that and maybe get in touch with Public Works and see what they have for signage. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
We'll be dealing with this, and hopefully we can resolve it.
Awesome. Thank you for your time.
Good. No problem. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Please come to the mic and state your name and your address.
Catherine Camera, 31 Cottage Place in Oakville. I'm sorry I didn't make it to the last meeting because I think you had a good time talking about the issue that I brought to you. It was a little snarky, I felt, but I want to point out to you that, and I understand that not all of you have worked for an insurance company like I have, so, and I'm disappointed in the lack of interest in what accidents cost the taxpayers. Because your response to having a truck parked on a sidewalk is that we have plenty of liability insurance. I don't know that you recognize that every time there's a claim, it costs the taxpayers $25,000. You can pretty much assume that the whole 25 will get used because I've been on the side that takes that money. So, and then your premium goes up. Every time you get hit, your premium goes up. So to assume that just because we have enough liability coverage is all that you need to worry about, it's not. I'm worried about the taxpayers. I'm worried about claims that are made. It's the other side of it. And also to think that someone who stubs their toe is not a problem, you know, it's a joke. I can tell you that there's plenty of lawsuits out there with people who stub their toe, with people who slip on wet leaves and want to claim it on a homeowner. Okay, as people have known, like to call them frivolous lawsuits. There's plenty of those. And guess what? You get a claim, you pay your deductible. So it's not a joke. And personally, I'm more concerned not about the stub toe, but you have an elderly person, cane, walker, hits something that's not usually on a sidewalk, falls. It's not a good thing to be in a hospital, as you would know, Mr. Antonetti, you were on the front page. It's not a good thing for people to be in the hospital. You're not treated all that well. So those were my concerns, and I thought they deserved to be heard in that vein. But it's obvious that we don't really care if people park on a sidewalk. Okay, that's fine. I hope that if I park on the sidewalk when I want to do something, I'm not going to have a problem either. I would suggest, I don't know if this is possible, but, like I said, the flag's a great thing. It looks terrific, but maybe that truck could park such that it blocks a road, because I know, like, when the parade comes through Oakville, you can't go up and down Riverside Street or Hillside. So maybe it could park on the road there. It wouldn't be on a sidewalk, and that would cure the problem. But I won't bother you any further with it. If there's a problem with parking on the sidewalk, it's a state statute. I'll go to the state. They might have more of an interest in what's going on. So thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the commission? Is there anyone else that would like to address the commission? Hearing none, we'll move forward on our agenda. Approval of the minutes for September 11th. Do I have a motion?
So moved,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman.
Do I have a second?
I second it, Robert McCarthy.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstention. Hearing none, the motion is carried unanimously. Going on to the issue of correspondence, and it was going to be a discussion regarding possible legislative funding for a new construction of a community police station, which we have a lot of plans for, going all the way back to 2022. And we got the letter both from Senator Berthel and also Representative Paletta. Maybe you could read their letter to the commission.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Genetti.
I have a letter from the State of Connecticut General Assembly, State Capital, Hartford, Connecticut, dated October 2nd, 2024. It is addressed to the Police Commission members, Richard Antonetti, Chairman, and it's regarding potential funding for Community and Police Center. It reads, Dear Commission members, first, we would like to thank all Commission members for their hard work and dedication in keeping our town and its residents safe. Additionally, we would like to acknowledge our Police Chief Joshua Berniger and Deputy Police Chief Renee Dominguez for their expertise, professionalism, and dedication as they effectively lead our men and women in blue. Thank you. We both recently toured the newly constructed Bethel Police Headquarters. It has become clear that Watertown will soon need a new, updated police headquarters. Having an improved and updated facility will build morale within the department and provide the necessary tools to our men and women on the front lines to keep our town safe. As your elected officials in Hartford, we will explore all funding possibilities for a future police department and community center. As the legislative session begins in January 2025, we hope to report back with positive news on potential bonding opportunities and other grants that may become available if the town so chooses to move forward with this project. We encourage all residents to reach out to our office with suggestions and opinions. Thank you for your time and keep up the great work. Best, and it's signed Joe Paletta, State Representative, Connecticut House District 68. Eric Berthel, State Senator, Connecticut Senate District 32.
Thank you, Commissioner. It was a fine letter and giving us more hope because, as I have mentioned before, Plymouth got $10 million from the governor for their police station. And if we can get similar amount of money or maybe more, and whether it gets into bonding, and I think anyone who has seen our police station, I believe, Chief, it's about 45 years old, and you are currently having problems with heating and air conditioning and other problems of toilets and floor. It is definitely in need for the town to get proper service, but I think in justice to all our officers and to the people that have to go in there every day to work, this is a definite need for our town. And myself, I will continue with the pursuit of the community policing station. And I think there's other opportunities. We're talking about cell towers, where you have an issue. You were at the council this past Monday, I believe, and gave a great presentation on the need for accurate and long-range communication. And you've been working very hard to get that rolling. We did get about a $3.5 million grant from our current Congresswoman, which is helping us, but we still need more. And we have to pursue that particular line of upgrading and making our police station modern, not only for those people who have to work there every day, but for the whole community. Public safety is a primary issue, and that's what our commission is about. And I guarantee you this commission will continue forward in efforts to get both federal monies and state monies, and if we need bonding, to pursue it. I talked with the council person, Mary Ann Rosa, and she said wholeheartedly she would move the council in the direction of support for the new police community station. So we're getting all people on board, and we will continue in that effort. And again, myself, I know how hard every member of the force does, and also both you and the deputy chief continue your efforts. So you have our support, everybody, right down the line. Any comments from members of the commission? Any comments?
No.
Hearing none, we're going to move forward on the agenda. The next item on the agenda is a discussion regarding threats made against our local schools. I currently have our town council looking up if there's any laws and regulations, because every time there is a threat on a school, not only does it damage the children in the school when you have to have lockdowns and say, oh my God, we're locked down again. What kind of fear goes through a young person, a high school person? Am I going to get shot today? They can read, they hear the news on what has happened, whether it's in Texas or in Georgia. What could happen here in Watertown? And I guarantee you that our efforts are strong in trying to give all the protection possible to our young students from every level. And what I asked the council to do, Attorney Jessel, to look into laws. Can we put upon the people, family, if it was a young person or a person, as in an article which I passed out, and maybe some of you people have read it, a very good writer for the Waterbury Republican. Her name is Tracy O'Shaughnessy, and she wrote an article in which Watertown is mentioned. And I gave a copy to all the members of the commission, and on the back side, it's reflections. And one of the things, she was at a fair where she came up to a booth that was sponsored by the police, and she asked, what can I do to support you in your efforts in dealing with these threats on the schools? And the officer said, well, if you see something, if you will say something, and then we can act. See something, please tell us, say something. But that's fine, she says. Where's the teeth in that kind of action? And Chief, maybe you can elaborate. It mentions that there was an 18-year-old, and I did talk with you extensively, and I don't want to go into detail. But when the person was charged, and I believe the person was charged with, in the paper it said two charges. Am I correct on that?
Yes, there were 2 misdemeanor charges.
2 misdemeanors. And she said, where's the teeth in that? Well, the public will say things and see things, but what kind of reaction now will happen to an individual? Well, it says here, well, he may not get a job because of it. is there any other action after that?
Mr. Chairman, every case is different, and the courts weigh the risk of the individual and what the needs of that individual are, whether they are indeed a threat and a criminal, or whether there's mental health issues and the person simply needs services. That decision lands with the court after we do our investigation, and if we have probable cause and make an arrest, at that point the police department is no longer engaged in that case at all, and it's entirely turned over to the judicial system.
So I assume now this case, has it come up yet in the courts? Have you followed it through to the courts?
Yeah, with this particular case, it's, certainly there's red flags with this young man, and he's had a very difficult time in his life, and there's certainly some mental health issues that need to be addressed, and I think the court is acknowledging that, and having released him immediately upon arraignment and ordering this young man into counseling and getting services. We don't believe there was any malicious intent in the statements. However, given the statements that he said is certainly alarming, and we took appropriate action. But there was no direct threat to the schools in this case, as was reported in the Republican American. He did not threaten a teacher. That was false information. Believe it or not, everything that appears in the news isn't true. However, that it was a young man that was reaching out to a past teacher more for help and guidance, and said some statements that he regretted afterwards.
I will be talking with Tracy O'Shaughnessy, and I will relay to her that we do follow, especially when there are threats, and I believe some of the threats to the point of he didn't care how many people he would shoot, but he was ready to go to jail, and et cetera. That we are fully aware of what people are doing, and when they do make a threat against the school or personnel in the school, we are very cognizant of what is going on, and I have confidence the department will keep their attention on where and how this individual moves, that it is something we are fully aware of, but we are also fully aware of the needs of that individual. And I think she should do maybe a little more research before she makes commentary in the newspaper, because it was somewhat set me back, and I'm sure other people, that do the police follow through? And I feel you do follow through, and we will keep our eyes and ears open, and if need be, teeth will be put into it. If an arrest entails more, we will do more that is needed, and that we will do what is needed to individuals, not a general policy. And as I say, I have the town attorney looking into how funds would be available from parents, if need be, for police that are turned out, fire departments that are turned out, and an ambulance that is turned out in a lockdown. And as I said before, the worry that is there as far as the individual children are concerned, because when you go through a lockdown, I've been into high school where there were lockdowns, and you get into a corner, you lock your doors, pull down the shades, and you wait, and you listen. And I don't think that's a very pleasant way to spend a day at school. It should be a happy day to go to school and a happy day at school. So that's basically what number 6 is dealing with, and if I get more information, I'll bring it before the members of the commission. Any comments? Hearing none, let's move on to the next item. Old business, an update. These are 2 updates, Chief. How are we doing on number 1 as far as local school sign postage?
I don't believe our Public Works Department has had time in the last month to start installing the signage. They've been very busy finishing up paving and doing other large-scale projects in town. But as those wrap up with the end of this construction season, you'll start seeing the signs put up on our local roadways for school zones.
Have we heard anything from Department of Transportation?
As you know, I did email them last week again, trying to get an update, and have not yet received a reply.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, through the chair, may I ask the chief a question?
Sure.
Since we're under old business. We had two parents here, Chief, last month, for that bus stop on Hamilton Avenue and Artillery Road. What was the result of that?
Sorry, so we went up there multiple times, and I also reached out to the bus company and spoke with the supervisor there. She was able to give me a list of all of the how many children get on for each school. The most children that get on are 8, and it's for the for John Truman, and then the rest are like 2, 3 who actually get on. So that seems to be the bulk of it. We also confirmed that with the bus driver that if the roster says 8 are to be picked up, 8 are actually being picked up, and there's not like kids who aren't supposed to be picked up that are being picked up there. The bus driver did indicate that since we have been up there, the police have been up there and asking people to park on one side and addressing some of the concerns from both the parents of the students and also the people who live there who don't have children as they're trying to come and go. He has seen an improvement. I reached out to both of the women who came here again on Monday to see what they thought their improvement was, and they did say that it does appear to be better with consistent police presence. We do think that that will be a remedy as opposed to having to affix permanent signs of not parking on this side, picking a side of the street, that we would then, if we needed to change in the future, we think that with police presence, we can potentially curb the behavior to make it more safe for both parties. We are going to also make sure the enforcement is on that 4-way stop sign to see if individuals are, not regarding the actually stopping, not so much the bus stop sign, it's the actual 4-way stop, because it's kind of like a crooked stop sign, and I think that's where people are going through. But, so we're gonna continue to monitor. I think that's where our recommendation is at this point.
Where did they want to park the cars, the parents, on Hamilton Avenue, or were they on that other street, Artillery Road, they wanted to park their cars? They were getting them off the street, but was it him?
They're on Artillery, so the bus stops on Hamilton.
Yeah.
Right at that, and they were kind of parking on both sides. So when you were to come down, there were cars on both sides, and as you know, once you get into there, it splits
Right.
to go into.
I know where it is. Yes.
So they were kind of all over, and we
All
did
over.
speak to the bus. The bus cannot make the turn, cannot
Right.
make that first left to come back around and pick up kids on Artillery. It has to be on Hamilton. It's just too big of a bus.
Yeah. So the parents, they could also park on that Artillery's right next to there. There's room on that to park cars too.
Yeah, that's where they are parking on
Oh, that's where they
Artillery.
are.
Yeah, but they were on both sides, which making
Oh,
it
it was on Artillery where they had, or?
correct, not on
okay.
Hamilton.
I thought they were on Hamilton Avenue parked
No.
on both sides.
No, on Artillery, but still, as you're pulling in there, people aren't
Yes.
expecting. The kids were, you're waiting for the bus. They're kind of out of the car and
Yeah.
in the road, so there was
Oh,
wanted to make sure that they were also
I
being safe.
misunderstood the woman. I know exactly where it is, so that's why I asked you
Yes.
about it. Yeah, thank you very much.
Any other questions from members of the commission? Chief, I also noticed that we received an anonymous gift for the department of $500 for your great service and stuff to be going into the fund for, could you explain a little bit on that gift?
Oh, yes, we did have a resident approach us who wanted to remain anonymous, who happened to be a big supporter of the police department and wished to donate $500 to the department for equipment that we need. So it was very generous of that resident, and we're super thankful. And we've also had 2 individuals who unfortunately passed away over the past year who have bequeathed money directly to the police department and other town departments as well. So it's nice to have that support and know that we're highly regarded in those people's minds.
Thank you, Chief. The other thing that I think is necessary, we did get a statement from the Connecticut Department of Transportation. They were concerned whether or not a development of, over in the area of Middlebury Road was going to create a large amount of traffic. I believe the development and the Department of Transportation just wanted the commission as in charge of all the roads and whatnot, whether this development is going to create a backlog of traffic. And Chief, could you elaborate what they need from us to say it is okay to go further forward with I believe it's a development of age-restricted 18-year-olds and older that would be in this development of some, I think, 300 homes?
Yeah, yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. The letter I received, I just received it 2 days ago, so it was after the agenda went out, but it's from Julaid Mohammed, who I believe is the project engineer working on the Turnberry Estates project off of, is it off of Lovely?
Lovely Drive, right.
It states, "Good afternoon. Our office is preparing an administrative decision application for a proposed reduction in 20 single-family units and an increase of 34 senior adult housing. As part of the application, we are to obtain a letter from the local traffic authority indicating concurrence with the assessment of no substantial impact to the state highway system. I have attached the traffic information portion of the application as well as a site location plan. I am also attaching a Word document containing a draft letter you can use if you see fit. It would be best to include your own letterhead if feasible. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me either via email or the phone number below. Thank you for your attention to this matter." Mr. Chairman and members of the Police Commission, in reviewing the documents that were sent, the engineers have determined that the change in their plans would only increase the average daily traffic trips out of that proposed project by 7 vehicles. So it is inconsequential, and with your authorization, I can send the requested letter.
I would like to take a vote on that, that we agree with that it will not cause any problems with congestion of traffic with a matter of 7 vehicles. And therefore, give the chief the authority to send a letter to the Department of Transportation that we approve the development and we feel there is no conflict. Do I
Mr.
have a
Chairman,
motion?
through you.
Mr. Commissioner Genetti?
Chief, the study that was included in the packet was conducted by the engineers for the applicant.
That's correct.
I was just curious if our traffic engineer or someone from Public Works was able to look at that study and verify their findings.
So this project was already approved, so this is just an alteration to the project. To answer your question regarding the alteration, I don't know if town engineers have laid eyes on this yet. I know that our town engineers don't generally do their own studies on these projects. There's, the applicant's required to hire traffic engineers and submit those studies directly to the Department of Transportation. But it does require local concurrence through the LTA.
Okay, so the previous plan was already approved.
Correct.
So they're just they're saying this additional, or the change to their plan will result in an additional 7 vehicles
That's correct.
to enter the state highway, I'm assuming Route 63?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? I would
Rich, Chairman, I got a question.
Commissioner.
All Are you familiar, because you have a background in planning and zoning, with any project presented to the town regarding traffic studies that were rejected as a result of the traffic study? All too often do I see people requesting or requiring traffic studies that have no consequences.
Yeah, there are, Commissioner, studies, and they're sort of done as a matter of, let's do a traffic study. Everybody wants a traffic
A
study.
very costly expense, and yet
And the
I can't
developer.
recall any denials as a result of one.
Right.
Is it just thrown out there as just verbatim, just to have a traffic study?
And I
What
think-
comes to mind is the Walgreen at the intersection of Straits Turnpike and whatever, Main Street, near Carvel. That represents a very busy intersection, which required a traffic study, and yet the project proceeded. I
Again,
can't think of any other location in town is as traffic as that.
Again, I think we're talking state roads, intersection, especially at the Carvel. You got 63, 72 coming in there. And I did mention to Commissioner Genetti that on our agenda for next month, I will put on the issue that the state do a traffic study of the intersections and the backup that is being created throughout the whole center of our town. It goes from Carvel all the way up to Starbucks, and it's
we're familiar
backed
with
up,
that,
and
yeah.
we're going to hopefully get a study done in that area. I want to talk a little more with the chief and some other people to see what we can do to get a study done. As you can see, with the Department of Transportation, we asked back in the summer months to do a study for school safety. And it's been on our agenda, again, under old business. Somehow, I like to use the analogy that the state seems to have the slows. It was Abraham Lincoln where he had to change generals. In order to get some action, he put somebody with determined to win the war, the Civil War. And he put that person in charge, even though he said we're going to lose a lot of men in fighting to win this war. But sometimes I think our Department of Transportation has the slow on safety issues. And I don't know, maybe it's sending a letter from the commission to the Department of Transportation, to the head of the Department of Transportation, to see what is going on. We need to get some answers to solve Main Street, which is Route 63. We have to get better flow of traffic. I know there was a program where they were talking about 63A, an alternate route, but now I believe that's been turned into a walkway and not as an alternative route for 63. So we'll see what the state has to come up with. And I think on behalf of the commission, I think it is necessary as a commission as a whole to request immediate action in solving our traffic problem with a traffic study by the state, how to deal with the tremendous backup in traffic in our town. Commissioner Genetti?
Yeah, I would just request that, that we table this for next month and have our Public Works Director up here and address both this request and the overall concern about the amount of traffic on Route 63, particularly between the areas of Route 73 and Route 6. I know we're only talking about 7 cars here, but what's the overall impact to that entire stretch of road, which over the last couple of years, the volume of traffic has really increased, at least from my perspective. So that would be my recommendation.
Okay, well, as I said, I'll put it on the agenda for next month. Any other questions? No. Hearing none, we can move on to the next matter. Chief, I believe it's you giving your report. Oh, there was one other thing. If you have any questions, at the last meeting, you got the General Order 8.7. If you have any questions on that general order dealing with an active shooter in the schools, I think those would be better addressed to the chief.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
through you, per the chief's comments last month, that General Order 8.7 does contain some sensitive information regarding police response to active shooters. I would just caution members, not to divulge certain information. If they do have a question for the chief, just be careful in how you ask that question. We certainly don't want to put sensitive information out there regarding police response to active shooter events.
Yeah, I would hope that it would be done in confidence. All right, any other comments? Chief, you ready to go with your monthly report?
Yes, sir. Good evening. You have my monthly report before you as far as statistics. As you can see, our traffic enforcement remains at a very high level right now, thanks in part to numerous grants that continue to feed our traffic enforcement initiative that's coming both from the state and the federal government. Those include click it or ticket, distracted driving, DUI, motor vehicle theft, crime suppression, and rural road speed enforcement grants. The Watertown Police Department's sworn ranks are currently fully staffed with 42 members. Dispatch is anticipated to be fully staffed with 9 full-time telecommunicators by the end of this month. 10 entry-level candidates for the position of police officer have been selected to attend an oral panel conducted by 3 of our field training officers this coming Friday. Hopefully, we'll be able to extend a conditional offer of employment to one and begin a background investigation on that candidate. We do have a seat secured in the January 2025 session of the Connecticut Police Academy. This hire will replace Lieutenant Tim Gavalis, who will be retiring in March after 30 years of dedicated service. At Monday's Town Council meeting, Fire Chief Dave Bromley, Public Works Director Jerry Lukowski, myself, the Deputy Chief, and other members of the department presented the full scope of the town-wide radio communications upgrade. This project is anticipated to cost about $1.6 million more than the $3.375 million grant received through United States Representative Johanna Hayes' office. And just a background on that 3.375. The police department had exactly 2 weeks to get this grant submitted by the time we were made aware that we were eligible to submit for this grant. So we scrambled to get a number through our radio provider that would upgrade our radio communication system as it exists today. That number is still accurate at $3.375 million. Once we did receive notice that we were awarded this grant, our radio provider came in and did a holistic view of the town's radio systems, that being Public Works and the fire department as well, and realized that if we upgrade just the police department, then we will no longer be able to communicate with Public Works or the fire department, because our radio system will be going to the federal P25 standard, which is a digital standard, which would leave Public Works and the fire department on older, outdated analog systems, and the fire department is on an entirely different bandwidth as well. They're on VHF, where Public Works and Fire is on UHF. So, plus we have a lot of dead spots with our radio system the way it exists today. So for $1.6 million more, the amount of enhancements that we would get for all 3 departments is significant for a relatively small cost. It would fully provide the fire department with an entirely new radio system that would be UHF and digital, and it would provide Public Works with all new radios that would be compatible with speaking to both the police department and the fire department. It would enhance our coverage, particularly the northeast section of town, where right now, for the vast majority of the Mattatuck State Forest and Black Rock State Park, we have very little radio coverage in that area due to the topography. So this project would include putting an additional receive and transmit tower over near Black Rock Dam. We did ask the consideration of town council for the added nearly $1.6 million to fully fund this radio project. To that extent, town council has set a special meeting date of October 21st to discuss and vote on a possibility of reallocating unused ARPA funds, as well as possibly having to appropriate funds from the general fund. If approved at that meeting, we are prepared to go to contract very quickly. So we are keeping our fingers crossed on that end. We did just today, and I'm very proud to say, received recognition from the Connecticut Police Chiefs Association as a Serve Well, Be Well agency. This is the plaque we received here. This recognition is reflective of our department's commitment to the well-being of all of our officers and civilian employees. Our people are certainly our greatest asset, and keeping them healthy and well, both physically and psychologically, provides the best service to our community. So we are very proud to have been recognized as a department who cares about the people who work there. And this regarding speed signs, just to update the commission on the location of our 5 speed radar signs at this time. We have one on French near Tucker. We have one on Davis Street near Claremont. We have one on Guernsey Town near the golf club. We have one on Falls Avenue by the Senior Center. And the one that's on Middlebury Road remains. That's been there now for a good couple of years straight, and we're keeping it there for a while. And we did just conduct crowd control training. Deb, you want to give some information on that?
Sure. Really quickly, we had sent 2 officers, Lieutenant Paquin initially, and then also Lieutenant Paquin and Sergeant Angelillo, to a couple of crowd control trainings that were for command staff, not really practical exercises. In those training, they learned of this same company will come down and they will do a training for your police department. So while we are a small department, and if anything were to happen where we would need crowd control, any major incident, we have the blue plan, which the chief has been talking about, which we would be able to call for mutual aid, but also for crowd control. So the chief decided that we would be able to put it out to the region, our Western Chiefs region, and see if we had any interest of all departments in that area coming together. We did. We had about 6 or 7 departments who sent officers. This occurred Monday and Tuesday of this week, where we were able to train as a group in the event that we would have to activate some sort of crowd control, in thinking of how the election is coming up and to be prepared as opposed to being reactive or being proactive. We saw protests, back after the murder of George Floyd, and many departments had to kind of quickly put together something that, because Connecticut had not seen protests like this. So really want to thank the chief for allowing Lieutenant Paquin to kind of push with wanting to get this training. It was really well received. We had Waterbury, Naugatuck, I think we had Middlebury, Torrington, New Milford, Plymouth, maybe Southington, and us. We sent 8 officers. So it was really great. We hosted it at the fire department, and then we were allowed to use the ice rink at Taft to be able to do the practical exercise where, 'cause Monday, of course, it rained, so we couldn't be outside. So we were really thankful for everyone who kind of came together in the town to allow us to be able to put on this training and to be the host agency. So, there are other things we're hoping to do, maybe make this regional as a, training quarterly or something to keep kind of everyone together. Because when we are going to call, God forbid, we need people, we're going to call these other towns. And to be able to say, we trained together, we know the same kind of training that we did, even though it was short, we are well better prepared than we were, a couple weeks ago.
Thank you. Is the officer that was training for taking blood, has she finished that training program?
The training was supposed to be in October, and it's being moved to November, or was supposed to be September, being moved to October. it might have been, it was supposed to be September, it's being moved to the end of this month. So the answer is no, but she will be trained shortly. Just they wanted to get a significant number to go through this training class together, to be able to put it on.
Thank you. Any other questions from members of the commission?
Hey, Mr. Chairman, a question for the chief. Chief, I fully support the update of the town communication system. I had a question about interoperability. I know that was an issue that came up with a failed assassination attempt of former President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, back in, was it June? That the Secret Service couldn't communicate with local police departments, and there were some issues also of local police unable to communicate with Secret Service because they lacked that interoperability. In other words, they lacked the ability to communicate. The two communication systems didn't work with each other. I was just curious if this cost addresses interoperability, certainly between departments within the town, but also if we had, God forbid, a Hurricane Milton that's about to hit Florida in a few hours, would we be able to, the communication systems from state-level agencies and federal agencies be able to operate with our systems with this update?
So that's a tricky question, Commissioner. Certainly, having all three of our departments on a digital platform is going to help with interoperability between our departments here. But because we're moving to a federal P25 digital standard, including a federal encryption standard, we will be at the industry standard now for radio communications, which will absolutely increase our interoperability. But there are still various different bandwidths of communication. There's the 800 level bandwidth, there's UHF, there's VHF, and there's low band. Those are four entirely different types of radio systems that do not communicate with each other at all. But they can be tied together using some pretty sophisticated equipment. That is not something that's part of this project. That equipment is usually able to be brought in by the state. They have mobile vans that can come in, and if we have a high-level incident, let's say a presidential address or a VIP incident where we're bringing in multiple agencies, including the Secret Service, the state would be able to provide a pretty sophisticated vehicle, it's a communication command vehicle that can come in and patch all those frequencies on those different bands together so that everybody could hear each other talking. So would we have that locally? The answer is no, but that resource is available in the state.
Thank you.
Just an additional comment. The only thing I would ask, Chief, is that someone have a conversation with the state to make sure, since we're going to be changing everything and updating everything, that we can work with their systems, that patching ability can be seamless.
Yeah, definitely. And with our regional dispatch center, which is Northwest Connecticut Public Safety, and we also have Litchfield County Dispatch in Litchfield, both of those centers are able to take our frequencies here in town and patch them together with any other department in the state. So that is helpful right there.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the chief?
I have a question.
Yes, Commissioner.
To the chief. I recently noted a number of vehicles parked on the lower end of Buckingham Street across from St. Mary Magdalene's Church, partially on the road, partially on the sidewalk. I don't know, was permission granted for that, as was required of the vehicle with the flag, or is it just something that we're ignoring?
Yeah, no particular permission is granted, although that is a very difficult situation over there. There are several apartment units.
Yeah, I understand that.
With no off-road parking.
In the winter? What do we do in the winter?
Which I would consider more of a zoning issue. It causes a parking issue there, but the fact that we have residential units there that have no means of parking off-street,
Again,
we
is that
give a little more
liability
latitude
apply
over there.
As came up earlier, the liability. The truck may have been allowed by the town, so the town would be at fault
Yeah.
if someone were to get hurt. But in this situation, if somebody were to, again, trip, fall, get cut by, whatever the reason by one of those vehicles.
No,
who
they're
stands
not allowed to
responsible?
park on the sidewalk,
They're
Commissioner.
not,
They shouldn't
no.
be on the sidewalk.
Yeah, I understand that.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, there is parking there. I think they're just parking up on the curb is what they're doing. So
Yeah, I think they're trying to be considerate and
Yeah.
staying out of the travel lane as much as possible, but that doesn't give them permission to park on the sidewalk.
And I know at one point that they were parking in the church parking lot, and the church had concern. So, yeah, it is a difficult situation over there.
How's it addressed in the winter, the plowing?
What's the question, Rich?
This vehicle's parking on the sidewalk and partially on the sidewalk, partially on the street, on Buckingham Street. It's synonymous to what Ms. Cameron said earlier about that vehicle parking on the sidewalk just for a 1 or 2 day event, but this is a multiple day occurrence. Now, is there any liability held by the town for not forcing them to park elsewhere? It's well known that they're there, obviously. And likewise, in the winter, is that allowed, or are they forced to seek alternate sites? I don't know. I'm not
Is-
down that often in that area, but I did note this the
I-
last couple of times.
I guess you're looking at, is it illegal? Yes. And is there a ticketing procedure, Chief, that we could ticket all the cars that are there?
There is a winter parking ban that goes into effect in the town of Watertown, beginning, when that parking ban goes into effect on December 1st, we put warning papers on their windshield advising them of the parking ban. We're supposed to be removing those vehicles from the road from 12 to 7, 12 to 6.
Which they do, apparently.
Which they do.
So
And
there is
we're,
an there is an
and
alternative.
particularly concerned when there's impending weather to make sure that those vehicles are removed.
Okay, any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Where do we stand with getting the cameras for the intersections?
The what?
For the traffic light, for the intersections?
Are you talking about red light running cameras?
Yeah.
There's currently no plan in Watertown to procure that equipment.
We do have a few people.
The only traffic light that's under the direct control of the town in this commission would be the traffic light at the high school. It's the only one the town owns and maintains. All other traffic lights are owned and maintained by the state of Connecticut, would be under their purview.
Well, French Street is, and Walgreens, both those two lights, they have no regard for no turn on red. They just buzz right through.
We can get some extra patrol up there.
Okay. Any other questions? I think the motion is in order to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor of adjournment? Aye. All those opposed, abstentions, hearing none, motion is carried. Unanimous.
Stopped.